Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. First NXT Network Premium Live event.
Ever. Yep.
Beginning of the network, 2014. Fun time to be a fan.
Yeah, really good time to be a fan. Kind of first big women's match ever on something like this. And so we're going to see like Stephanie's out there as well too. And so, yeah, just a fun one. This is one that I forget exactly why I kind of picked this one. Part of it is because we're coming off of the NXT Vengeance Day show, of course. And so happening last night. And so I think just giving a little love to NXT, giving a little bit of love to the women as well, too, out here, kind of, putting on good stuff. I think most people weren't watching NXT a whole lot at this point. And so, and this was really the foundation of what, eventually turned into the women's division from the Divas division. And so it was really good wrestling. We just had no clue that it was happening. And so one of those ones that I don't think I've ever watched it in full. And so I'm excited to check this one out.
Yeah, me too, man. This is just a fun era, and I think we'll have a really good discussion. So I'm looking forward to the match, and yeah, the significance of the fact that, hey, women's wrestling is actually pretty cool to watch, and maybe like we can create a division out of this and make it more than popcorn matches before the main event. I mean,
yep.
So it's amazing what's happened in 10 years. I mean, it really is. So go from, hey, they can kind of wrestle and there's maybe a division to be had here to, main eventing WrestleMania. Yeah, if it's the best program, sure. Like,
yep.
And oftentimes it is. I mean, Bianca and Sasha kicked ass. Rousey, awesome stuff, right? Becky,
yep.
Charlotte. I mean, it's just, could Rhea main event WrestleMania? Absolutely, right? Like, it's just good shit. So it's fun. I'm looking forward to this one. Let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right. Full Sail. This was, and I forget like Full Sail was even a thing because I feel like we've been in the Performance Center so long now. We got 400 people there. We're, as you said, starting to get some traction for the NXT thing, right? Like it's starting to become a thing. And I think the network really helped that because it was like, you throw one of these on and you're like, well, that was a really fun 2 hours. So they won me over pretty fast. I think this is before we really got into, into NXT being what it became. This is early, but we start off, we had a dark match of Mason Ryan defeating Sylvester LaFour. First match was Cesaro defeating Sami Zayn in 22 minutes. I'm sure that was an awesome match.
Yeah.
Mojo Rawley defeating CJ Parker in 3 minutes. The Ascension retaining their tag titles by defeating Too Cool, which was Grandmaster Sexay and Scotty 2 Hotty coming back.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. Then the match that we're going to cover. And then in your semi-main event, Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods quickly went to a no contest. And then the main event, Adrian Neville is going to win the NXT Championship in a ladder match, defeating Bo Dallas in 16 minutes.
Yeah, spoilers. We'll actually have this match in the end of the month. And so, yeah, we'll be talking that one. Yeah. So, really a stacked card.
Again, a really solid 2 hours of wrestling. Great ratings for the Cesaro match. Really good ratings for the main event as well. But yeah, it seemed like that opening match just stole the show.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And this is one like it's crazy to think like just see like some of those names out there as well too. And so do you want to give everybody a refresher though on NXT on this one? It was actually 2012 where they kind of restructured it. As we all remember, it was like the TV reality based competition show, developmental, was not good, not nearly what it could have been. But I think them just trying to figure out what they wanted from this. And so it was actually this year, this show, it was their first live special titled ArRIVAL. Having it, like we said, at Full Sail, which is where they always tape. This was actually exclusively on the network. And it was WWE's first live event to be broadcast on the network because the network launched 3 days before this event. Which is crazy to think like the first show was actually an NXT show. And so on the network. And so we are in the absolute infancy of this NXT as just what it is and what we know nowadays. We've got the gold, we got the black, we're just used to that. And so, just kind of crazy to think too. And this was the network. Here we go. So, because it looks like too, it looks like one of those banners says in the back, like network and stuff like that. But anyways, so, how we got here though on this one, we actually had Paige. It was actually July 24th, and so almost 6 months prior to this, you had Paige beating Emma in the finals of the tournament to crown the inaugural NXT Women's Champion. We've all seen the picture of Paige winning that one. We'll cover that match one day, but we all have that. And so, unfortunately, they hadn't fully figured out women's wrestling yet at this point because, Emma earned the number one contender spot. It was actually August 7th on NXT by winning a dance-off. And so not quite the women's wrestling we know. I think they would get actually skewered if they ever try to do something like that nowadays, maybe. But she had, and like I said, this was a little bit different of how they were doing it. And so while she got like that August 7th is when she got the number one contender spot, it wasn't until almost 6 months later where we actually get this match. And so she actually defended the number one contender spot against Natalya. That was January 1st on NXT. And then it was announced that she would get this match at ArRIVAL on February 12th. And so I figure things coming together with the network and everything else, because it was just really 3 weeks before this event where they said this is when she would get the title shot. And so I don't think they really knew what to do before this, but hey, here we go. And we get this match.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to this one. It should be really good. So we are at the 59-minute mark. First NXT takeover ever on the network. I'm ready if you're ready, Jeff.
Yeah, got to pull up. Let's do it.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
Paige, Saraya.
Looking young as can be. Yep.
What do you-
Emma too. Looking
How
young.
would you rate her AEW run?
So I got another question I ask you about that too. I think it's fine. Like good for her. Obviously she wanted to get back to it. She got cleared, fought hard to get there. Medical science has come a long way since even Edge and her had the injuries that they had. And so, yeah, but I haven't paid enough attention to even know the full thing. Like, she got the title win and stuff like that, but I really I'm like a solid 5 out of 10. I just don't know and don't care enough.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I thought maybe you would educate me or have some more information because that's kind of been mine as well. I mean, I'm happy for her, but it doesn't seem like it's being terribly well received.
Yeah.
They've really struggled. I mean, they've really struggled with that women's division in general. I mean, there's obviously some really talented, hardworking people, but for whatever reason, it hasn't seemed to click.
Yeah, it was it a big deal? Is she a big name? Yeah, absolutely. The question I was going to ask you and what I wonder is like for the longest time, like, that was such a big part of the story was, or not her story, but just what real life outside of story, like she just couldn't get cleared by WWE, but then she does get cleared by AEW. I do wonder, like, what was the difference? Was it at a point where WWE was just like, we're not going to take the risk. I do wonder, like, we've said it before, a $1 billion company, is the risk worth it of having, one bad power slam and that's it?
Man, it's tough because on one hand, I mean, what's the difference, right? Like, what doctor is like gonna clear her when another would? Like, why would WWE be any different? Like, I mean, if a doctor says you can't wrestle, you can't wrestle. So like, part of me says no, it can't be that, but then it feels like it kind of has to be, right? Like, I mean, AEW has said if you're okay getting in the ring, we'll be okay with it, and we'll make you sign something or whatever, but we'll take that risk. I mean, it just feels like AEW has to have taken a risk that WWE wasn't willing to take, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it just, like, we all watched it. I know, most, we watched that documentary of her with, like, literally they caught the moment she found out like she wasn't going to be able to wrestle again, and they got on the phone with her parents and stuff, and like it's terrible to see. And so, because of course we don't wish that on anybody, and I want them to be safe as anybody. Like, we've always seen, and you and I are on social media enough. You and I share like the old wrestling toys and like video commercials and stuff that we see all the time. I'm like, don't try this at home. Like, there's a reason that don't try it at home. And so I've explained to one of my friends who she's got two kids, and like she's worried about wrestling and them emulating some of it. And I was like, to be honest, like, it's so, like, they're safe, but like, she's like, well, it's fake. I was like, hey, like, don't say that to the wrestling fan. Like, that's not what it is. Like, and so, and was it Daniel Bryan that said like he got cleared by like 7 or 8 doctors, but the 9th was still a no. And so WWE wouldn't do it or something like that. I forget the full story, but yeah. So, just who knows? I mean, good for her. I know she's got to be happier out there. But who knows?
Dude, it's wild. She's been wrestling for 17 years and she's only 31 years old.
I have not seen the movie. Who is it? Florence Pugh or whatever it is. I have not seen the movie based on her life yet. I still need to watch that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, me neither. Yeah, it's just wild, like how long her career's been, and she's still young. I mean, they did the documentary, the A&E one with her, which I thought was great. I mean, I think it's cool that like they'd be willing to do that, even though she's obviously on AEW TV. It's why I laugh, but I mean, I think a lot of internet fans think WWE cares about AEW more than they actually do. I mean, not that they aren't watching and kind of following and knowing what's going on, but to think that like, yeah, I mean, we'll do a A&E special about Paige because we don't care. I mean, what's going to happen? Like, we create a little awareness for AEW. I mean, but it's like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think you're dead on there. Like, they just don't know. There might be some intern that is assigned to like, watching it every week and then reporting back on if they, one of the raps or something from the Acclaim makes fun of WWE or knowing kind of what to reference or something like that. But overall, yeah, they're not losing sleep. That's just not a thing. Yeah.
I mean, she strikes me as the type that if you got her into a room and there was no recording device and you said, how bad do you want to main event WrestleMania? I gotta think that it's like the most important thing she could do, right?
I guess, is there any? There isn't. Like, I know the answer. Like, there's nothing bigger than that.
And she worked Wembley. I mean, she did that. So like if for her that was like the pinnacle. Okay, well, you did that. What haven't you done? Well, I haven't. I stopped wrestling in WWE before women were main eventing WrestleMania. Her and Rhea main eventing WrestleMania. Her and Sasha. Who, I mean, pick one. But gosh, can you imagine? Like, that would be the. I mean, that's what she wants. But who knows?
It has to be. Yep.
Who knows if now they say, okay, we're willing to give it a chance because you've been wrestling for a year or 2 years or whatever. But it'll be interesting.
A lot of holds in this match. Let's see, some submission attempts and stuff like that.
That was
Nothing.
Australian, right?
Yes, yeah. Oh, I think wasn't she re-signed and then they fired her again or something like that. I forget exactly
I
what
think
this.
that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. But yeah, I have the recent or the history after this match, but not overall. Yeah.
How long was it after this that Paige got called up?
I will tell you in the aftermath, my friend.
Okay. I
Yeah,
figured.
no spoilers, but yeah, don't worry. It was a very very soon, but yes, I
That's
will
what I
not.
thought. Her debut was awesome.
Yep. And so I'm looking here. She spent Emma, yeah. On September 21st, she announced that she was released amongst many other talent. So yeah, I remember that. That was the one of the black days. Yeah. So but she was on Raw in July, so she did not have a long run. Yeah, less than a year, 6 months, 8 months. Yeah. That's most recent. Like I said, a lot of submission holds at this point. Emma's got Paige kind of locked up. Um, Crazy to think like where the NXT women's division is now and kind of how far it's come, and just NXT as a whole, how far it's come. And so yeah, just really interesting.
Yeah, this Full Sail thing was, I mean, a cool experiment. I'll be curious where NXT goes next. I mean, and what I mean by that is like the Performance Center, and I wonder. I mean, I'm sure there's already internal conversations, but it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
Because if we're going to, I mean, you and I have been down to the Performance Center, so like to me, what would be next? I mean, I think Orlando makes a lot of sense because wrestlers live there and there's Disney and blah blah blah. Excuse me. Woo! Had to sneeze.
A dump button real quick. Yeah. The cough button.
I got the emergency mute button. So, let's fantasy book this. So if you were going to do the next evolution of this, to me, it would be, a slightly bigger quote unquote arena, right? So like a performance facility. Okay.
Yep.
So we've got a permanent ring, chairs, the whole deal. All right. There'd be obviously all the training center stuff, but better. So better weight room, better announcing room, better conference room, better locker rooms. Then to me, what I would do is I would have the physical Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So that if I'm going to the quote unquote Hall of Fame to see the WWE Hall of Fame, there's a window into the Performance Center where I can watch, or maybe I can even walk through, certain days. And there's like open houses where you can watch people training or not, or just through glass, but not hear what they're saying, right? Or whatever it might be. And maybe there's a way to do some of the, because the coolest part about these Hall of Fames, at least when like years ago when I went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, you could shoot pucks, you could do
It's
stuff.
interactive. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm just thinking like an interactive Performance Center Hall of Fame.
Kind of promo. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Like you do all that stuff. So it's almost a little bit more of like a fantasy camp type thing. But I think they could make, and then hey, every Wednesday night we're taping NXT. And maybe you do, a house show down there every once in a while. Or I think there's a lot of cool shit you could do down there.
Well, I want to point out too, you and I have been fortunate enough we were able to go and spend the day there and sign our contracts for the day and experience everything in the Performance Center. But I remember I asked Matt Bloom that was my question to him, was like, what's next for like you in the Performance Center and everything else? And I think the reality is like for those that haven't been there and maybe you've seen the shots on TV and stuff like that, it's a 6 rings in like a warehouse. It's while it is the Performance Center, it is, new, nice and stuff like that. Like My Planet Fitness is bigger than their weight room. Like, a Lifetime Fitness is bigger than their weight room. Like, they've got all the, this stuff. And so I think, I'm right there with you. I think that's the next evolution is you build a huge investment, but like a multi-million-dollar facility to train, teach, all this different stuff. Like even, and you and I, we've been around sound studios and stuff like that. Like for a lot of this, like, where they, where they would review matches, it was like 2 TVs in a sound booth, like 3 TVs in a sound booth, like, with a sound studio, like, you can't fit more than 5 people. So I think when they talk about the performance center and they make it look bigger than it is on TV, like it's still 6 rings in a warehouse. Like that, which is fine.
It's not even a standalone building, right? I mean, it's like connected to
there's other people in the building, right? Yeah, it's like one of those types of buildings, and it's back in a very unassuming, like even you and I are like, where the hell are we going? Like when we were driving, like because it's like
we're in the right spot.
Yeah, it's like off a weird back road. And so it is crazy to think of like what they have accomplished in that building and like the people that have come out of that building to go on to then main event, WrestleMania and stuff like that. And so, it's mind boggling. This match just picked up a little bit here.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah,
it wasn't great in the start here. I didn't feel like, but they've kind of picked up the action here. We've had some high spots and stuff like that. And they're kind of, fans don't seem to be they're kind of all sitting and hanging around still. Paige selling the fact she can't get the pin at this point. And so it was that Mojo Raleigh fans sitting there across from the hard cam. Looks like 4 of them all have the same shirts on for Mojo. Good for them. Which I find comical.
It's funny. I mean, say 2010 or whatever, 2012. I mean, if you would have told me what would have become of the women's division, I like to say nothing in wrestling surprises me, right? Like, that shocks me. I mean, it's unbelievable what they've been able to do. To me, it's one of the more surprising things ever. Like if 15 years ago you would have said, hey, WWE is going to have a network and a major TV deal and Peacock and streaming and 2 nights of WrestleMania, none of that would have shocked me. But these women headlining WrestleMania, I mean, what they've been able to do, and it's obviously well deserved. And I love it. Like, I mean, I really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. So all right, absolutely. So Emma taps out there. So Paige retains the title. She's over. I mean, she's just it's a unique look. She's a great worker. Yeah, people love the character. I mean, she was a really important part in really making this division into something.
It's a big power. Yeah, showing
really strong match. And again, it was unlike anything we were seeing during this era, which makes to me even better. So, all right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
What'd you think?
It was not bad. I've said it before. Sometimes matches take a little bit to get cooking, especially in New Japan. I think this was one too. It just took a little bit to get cooking, but once it did, it was pretty good. And so some of I wonder, little nerves there as well too. Kind of first show of this nature, kind of playing into that a little bit. But I think once they remembered, hey, we're wrestlers, we can do this. It really came together and was a good match.
Agreed. Yep, I totally agree. I really liked it.
So this one you asked, of course, kind of what happened and how this played out. And so we'll start with Emma, actually. Well, we'll start with Paige. It was actually a day later. It was the post-WrestleMania Raw on April 7th. Paige made her unannounced main roster debut and was challenged to a title match by Divas champ AJ Lee. And so Paige won that match to get the Divas championship. And the next night was a double champ. And so a couple weeks later, it was actually... she was actually forced to relinquish the NXT women's title after this because of her being on the main roster and the Divas champ. And so Paige took off immediately on this one. She was super well liked. I liked her too when she was on the main roster. She had a really good run. She was just fun to watch. And so, because like you said, she's just very different. And so, which I thought was great. Emma on the flip side of this one, Emma lost to Charlotte in a tournament to determine the new champion on that one. And then just different storylines. You had Emma and Paige saving Bayley from an attack from Summer Rae, Sasha, and Charlotte because they were playing the heels. So then eventually you had Emma teaming with Paige and Bayley as well. Kind of interesting stuff. Emma, not, huge storyline, but Paige, they obviously strapped the rocket to. So good stuff. PWI women's ranking on this one. We don't always get into the women's charts, but Emma was 29, Paige numero uno in 2014. Kind of crazy to think. Observer newsletter on this one. At NXT ArRIVAL with a packed sold out crowd, as well as new bells and whistles, 360-degree screens around the gym like the ones in major arenas that on which WWE puts the logos and scoreboard style. It really did look like the best venue in pro wrestling right now. More than ever, it looked like a miniaturized WWE production, which is good for the talent. As Paul Levesque pointed out on the conference call, all the cameras are in the same spots they'd be in major arenas for a TV taping or pay-per-view. Paige versus Emma was for the women's title. Both women tried and failed to hit their signature moves several times. Regal pointed out that they had both done so much scouting. They knew what the other was thinking. Emma was the de facto heel, holding Paige down with submission holds. They brawled up top, and Emma hit a sunset flip powerbomb for a near fall. She hooked a modified sharpshooter. I think Edge used to do it this way. But when she hooked, but then she also hooked both of Emma's arms and lifted her up, and Emma tapped out. Well, that ruled. Great way to get a new finish right away. Best women's match in this promotion since the glory days of Trish Stratus and Lita. They shook hands and hugged as the fans chanted for the Divas. 3.5 stars. So I felt like we were about to get like 8 stars with how he was writing it, but then only 3.5. And so, Tom, what's your payoff score for this one? What are you thinking?
I had it at 6.5. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was good. Nothing special. I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of better matches from this division. So yeah, it's okay.
I'm a 7. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, like I said, it was good. Even this card had some better matches, which we'll get into as well too. But overall, like, it was not bad. Like, especially to see the early days of what NXT was. That this is, especially for the women. I think this is absolutely worth it. So yeah,
agreed.
I want to remind everybody, of course, as we always do every week, make sure you're checking out that checking out manscaped.com and using our promo code. We always appreciate it. Every month, they haven't gotten rid of us because you guys love supporting them, love supporting us. And so payoff, getting you 20% off and free shipping, everything in the manscaped.com store. Make sure you're checking that out. All kinds of great products, all kinds of good stuff, as well as CalderaLab.com. Make sure you're checking them out. You got the Manscaped for all the hardware, but then Caldera Lab as well too for, some of the moisturizers and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, I don't need it as a guy. Like, trust me, it's worth it. It's all good stuff. Tom and I love it too. So, let's send them home happy.
Cool. This was fun. Appreciate everybody listening. We'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Path.